Hello, and welcome to Framing the Foundation podcast. I'm your host, Sid Parulkar. We are here again with an exciting episode, and this time we get a chance to speak to Dr. Jeroze Dalal. Dr. Dalal is the head of clinical operations, medical governance, and risk management in general medicine in GSK India. She has a tremendous background with over 30 plus years of experience in the industry. She has managed multiple regions globally, has been in multiple leadership positions, and has worked for giants like Pfizer, GSK, and Novartis in the past. I was fortunate enough to be part of her group while at GSK and have learned a lot. She's inspired me to really, or just inspired me to be a better human being. But at the same time, I've picked up a lot of traits about what leadership looks like. In 2018, she received the 100 most impactful healthcare leaders. She made it the global list, and she got an award at the World Health and Wellness Congress in Mumbai. So a truly exceptional leader, and I'm pretty sure she will have a lot to share from experience. And I'm really hoping you will enjoy this podcast and at the same time pick up a lot of pointers that will hopefully help you in your journey. Uh, so let's dive right in. Okay, great. Zeros, thank you so much for taking time to join Framing the Foundation podcast. Very excited to have you here. And, as I mentioned in the introduction, tons of experience working globally. And I think the listeners would be really interested to understand, like, how have you evolved as a leader? But let's talk about, your journey in the industry. I mean, you have been in the industry for almost, I would say, 3 decades now. So
Hello.
what did it look like?
Yeah. Hello, Siddharth. I think before I jump into my journey, I would really like to thank you for this opportunity to be on the Framing the Foundations podcast. And it's really a
Pleasure to have you
pleasure
here.
and a privilege to be here. And thank you for the question. It's a great start and a wonderful day today in Mumbai. So my journey started way back in 1986. That's about more than 35 years back. And it started, I was fresh out of college, studied microbiology and trying to decide what to do next. And I got into a hospital setup where I wanted to study. And I did my MSc I registered to do my MSc in neuropathology in one of the leading hospitals in Mumbai, and that was a good 5 year experience in the world of electron microscopy, in the world of nerve and muscle pathology. Extremely fascinating. And that was my first job. I also learned how to deal with people, how to deal with managers, and manage the stakeholders per se. Patients were also an important stakeholder in those days. So,
Right.
so it started with that, and
Interesting.
then as life, nothing is easy in life. We see ups and downs, we see failures. I At the end of my 5.5 years of work, I did not get my thesis for some reasons, and that made me more resilient, more determined to do my MSc afresh. So I started doing a fresh MSc in chemistry, then moved from neuropathology, and the gear moved towards chemistry. I did that in quick time, along with a job in the pharmaceutical industry. So
Hmm.
that was my first job. Again, I think I'd like to point out that it wasn't something that was planned. In fact, I had gone accompanying my sister for a job, and she
Hmm.
went for an interview, and I ended up getting the job.
It's
That
interesting.
happened in the early days, and that's how I entered into pharmaceutical industry with just a BSc in those days, just a
Hmm.
bachelor's. And I worked in the quality control teams. I worked in validation. I worked in animal testing. We were into making injectables
Hmm.
and vitamin B12 facility in those days. And we were the only company, so we had a dominance there. So that was my first entry into pharma. And of course, the nature that I have, I am always wanting to do something different. So after 2 years, I told my manager that I have to do something different, and I got a move to join medical affairs team. from the lab, from the quality control team, from the factory to move to an head office was a big leap, you know, at least in the eyes of people. And I managed to get the role. It was actually a temporary role till somebody went on mat leave. So I
Okay.
think it's very important to grab any opportunity that comes your way, have the courage to ask for a change.
Hmm.
And that's what I learned, really entailed and really helped me. And after that, I really enjoyed my journey in the medical affairs team because we were a part of the brand management team.
Hmm.
So we had the worked very closely with marketing. In fact, one foot was in marketing, one foot in medical, and made it really easy and facilitated the medical marketing animosity that generally exists.
Definitely exists here.
So,
Yeah.
so there were these soft skills of, you know, you have to make this work. You have this copy matter. It's not that we are going to sit over it and, you know, point fingers, but if there's something that is objectionable or if there's something that is not substantiated, we will work with the marketing folks. So that's a big lesson I got in those days. And then I moved to Bangalore. I joined SmithKline Beecham. That was the global company, my first global company. And I don't know, if, Siddharth, if you're aware, but I'm one of the first three CRAs in the country. So
Wow.
there were only
Yes.
a couple of CRAs before I joined as a CRA in SmithKline Beecham. And that was for a global study. It was a breast cancer study, the first global study for SmithKline Beecham and for many, many investigators. So I have taught a lot of investigators the basics of GCP. Some of them still remember, some of them are no more, unfortunately. But it was a great experience, you know, because in those days where people would even question where is the trust, they would tell me, where is the trust? Why do you need those notes? Why do
No.
you
So, yeah.
need me
Yeah.
to write? What are you coming to verify? So a lot has changed, you know, and a lot changed year on year. And this is a 35-year journey, so I'll try and keep it short.
Yeah.
But building trust and saying that, yes, I am your partner and we'll work together to comply with the requirements, to comply with the regulations, to comply with ICH GCP. It's been a absolutely
Yeah.
fascinating journey.
It's an interesting point there because I think for viewers here in the US, I think the clinical research industry is quite old, and
Yeah,
not a lot of people have had the experience or first-hand experience of actually introducing it to your investigators as a
yeah,
new form of documentation or what GCP stands
that's right.
for. I remember
Yeah,
when I started as a CRA, we were still struggling with that with some investigators. But I can understand back in the day when you started your career, that's like 25, 30 years ago. That has to
yes,
be
true.
something brand new to to the investigators in India.
Yes. So I remember in those days we used to carry those papers, CRFs, and I used to carry the IP, and nobody stopped me in any airport security.
Yeah,
And how things have changed since then
right. Yeah,
for the
absolutely.
betterment. Yeah,
Yeah, for the better. Yeah, yeah. More
yeah,
processes, more
yeah,
systems in place now.
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but you carry on.
Yeah, so then that was the journey I had in SmithKline Beecham, my first study. And after I think a good 4 years of doing the study, we had to call it off because of, you know, an interim analysis report. So that was also accepting failure in the right spirit and learning at that stage that not everything that we put our hands into is going to succeed, whether it's at work, it's at home, it is in any walk of life. And so we had to stop the study in the most possible, in the most appropriate manner, and let our patients who know that now they will not continue on the study because of reasons X, Y, and Z. But that came as a shock to us after 4 years because there were
Right.
some interim analysis happening.
Mhm.
It is at that stage when the study had to be terminated.
Yeah, no, I understand the disappointment
Yeah.
there.
And then from there, I think has been, you know, I actually traveled and I worked in Astra. So I worked in Singapore. I went to Singapore. I did some jobs there. I was with AstraZeneca, and I had my first team of people in Astra, and even prior to that in SmithKline Beecham. And in Singapore, of course, there was a different cultural mindset. Took some time to understand that. and I did some regional training and some consultancy work for a
Hmm.
couple of years. And then when
Yeah.
I came back, I joined, when I came back to India, back to Mumbai, I joined Pfizer. So in industry, I'm known as a multinational person. If you see my CV, it's all the big,
Global
the
change.
creme de
Yeah.
la creme companies, and
Yeah.
that's what I am. So I think there's a lot of sunlight. So let
Yeah.
me sit. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is better.
This
Yeah,
is better. Yeah.
yeah. So that when I came back to Pfizer, I did a quality role, a quality management and process improvement role, which was a part of the medical affairs team.
Hmm.
But I was focused on quality for clinical trials. I was focused on vendor management. I was focused on medical affairs. So it was a big team, a very different setup, and again, a wonderful company to work with. So,
So
and just as yeah, go ahead.
just gathering from your experience so far that you've said, like I think the takeout points are like you're always going to have change in life. You have to
Yeah,
adapt to the changes, especially in a
yes,
professional setting. And I think
yes,
people management is so critical, and it's an important
right.
element of leadership, which
Yeah.
probably you have experienced
Yeah.
throughout your career.
So, Siddharth, if I can build on that. So, one is adapt and embrace change, but change is really something that's important and it's an opportunity.
Right.
I think every time there is a change, I see it as an opportunity and grab it and then work towards it.
Right.
So, an opportunity to be grabbed is what I would define change as in my personal life.
No, but as I mentioned in your introduction, had a I was fortunate enough to have a chance to work with you at GSK. Thank you so much for being a wonderful mentor, being there, and some of the I would say the best days of my life were at GSK. So thank you. But we learned a lot
Lovely.
from you about leadership and how you conducted yourself around the office. But just based on that, Zeros, and sorry not to cut short on your journey, but just take us through that and how the leadership element kept building within you. I think really good for listeners to really understand that.
Yeah. So, started with individual contribution role. Then thought being a manager would be easy because you won't be responsible for the projects. It's nothing easy. So then became a manager and still manage the projects. In fact, your accountability increased. My accountability increased as a manager. And when I joined GSK in 2007, it was like 40 studies, all of them derailed. Huge turnover of people, huge churn, and just as I was settling down, we had an FDA audit for a study. So that was like a crisis situation because there was nobody in the team who had worked in that study or on that study, and you had to make sure you put your best foot forward and did your best in terms of the audit, being open, transparent, but also had planned every step of the audit very well. So that's how I think I managed the crisis decently. And in India, of course, it was a big team. We had then number of global studies in all indications, many therapy areas, not just oncology. Predominantly, it was still onco. And then I also got to lead the Pakistan team. So then the learning there was how to culturally manage India and Pakistan. So there wasn't much gender diversity. It was a 100% male team in
Yeah.
Pakistan, and it wasn't an easy situation, but learned some things there. Some of these soft skills of being a little humble, being patient, hearing people, taking their point of view, understanding their opinion, and understanding their perspectives, which helped me to succeed in that role as well. So that
Those are some
was
great,
my
great
journey
points.
in
Yeah.
GlaxoSmithKline for almost 9 years. And then, the regulations in India, as you know, changed so much that the trials were falling and we had no option. And I had an option and an opportunity with Novartis, where I became the global program trial head. managing some malaria programs, and malaria and leprosy are two indications very close to my heart because of my work in doing the social work in these areas. So I really grabbed that opportunity, and again I gave it my best shot for about 5.5 years. That was the time I moved without my family to another city, established myself, and again it was a great organization to work with, in terms of culture, in terms of the learnings, in terms of the stretch that I got. It was again a giant leap, um,
Mhm.
from what I did. So from a
Right.
local setup, regional setup, to do a global role and have people all over in different geographies, work across time zones. So my team was in Cambridge and I was in Hyderabad. So it was, it was not easy, but it was very enriching,
Mhm.
very enriching.
Yeah. I mean, I
So
look at you as, a role model for woman empowerment, especially in India, where things have evolved over a period of time. But, you are
mhm,
like the perfect role model for women getting out of their comfort zone and, trying to, I would say, break all the barriers to really
yeah,
keep pushing yourself and, making, I would say, your own road, which is very
yes,
inspiring, and I think it's important from a leadership standpoint to have those qualities to keep pushing on.
right. And a lot of resilience and a lot of determination, that, determination to do better, to excel. Each time, each role has given me a different flavor and a different skill set at the end of it. And I've given a good solid 5 years in most of the roles. So very rarely have I jumped in 2 years, because I think it takes a good 4 5 years to understand and give your best. And then it's time to take something more enriching.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think this is something that I think the next generation should really like learn from, is
Yeah,
not to like jump
yeah,
companies too quickly, but
yeah,
settle down in a role, understand the role before moving on to the next role, because then
yeah.
you have to be prepared to move on to the
You
next
have
role.
to be ready for it. Yes, true.
And spending time on the ground really does benefit at the back end when you are in a
Yes,
senior role or in a leadership role.
true. So, Siddharth, and then after the malaria program that I led, there were two assets in early development. So wonderful. All the work was in sub-Saharan Africa. I worked with people on the ground. I could not visit Africa, but I worked with people on the ground, with very close collaboration with the vendors and their staff who were working on behalf of the organization. And again, Africa has its own challenges. And to add to the woes, we had COVID then,
Hmm.
and some
Yeah.
countries in Africa even refused to admit that there was something like a pandemic.
Hmm.
But eventually, everything stopped. The borders were sealed. As you know, there was no way to send the IP, and there was no way for anybody to communicate. But I think even some of the African countries, their ethics committees, their regulators, they also took the challenge in a very positive way. And I saw leaps of improvement in terms of building efficiencies in that era. So that was a wonderful experience in malaria. I also worked in leprosy when I was in Novartis, and I do some work with some social organizations on um, education and on skill building for leprosy patients. And I don't know if you're aware, but India has 60% of the leprosy patients of the world are from India. So, and the rest are scattered in some parts of Latin America, some parts in Asia. So I think that was also in line with my interest, but there I got to do a very innovative project. So it was my first digital project where we did we took pictures or photographs of these skin lesions,
Hmm.
and we used AI and ML to discern if it was leprosy, or if the images were from other skin
Diseases.
ailments.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that was very good because it's going to be used, and I think we've now published the paper. A little more work, and it can be used as an early screening tool for many people, and that would make a big positive impact in their lives, because leprosy, if it's detected early, it
Yeah.
can be cured, and there's no stigma. But people have the stigma. They don't, first, they're not aware. They
Hmm.
have the stigma. By the time they have the disease which is progressed, it's too late. And then even today they are isolated and stay in separate colonies, which is a shame in this day
Right.
and time.
Yes, yes, yeah, right.
So the tool was developed as an early screening tool, which can be on any phone, any smartphone, and any person in any part can use it uh,
Amazing.
to detect. You take a picture of your skin lesion, and to a great degree of accuracy, the app will tell you whether it's leprosy. If leprosy, then you go and get yourself treated.
That's amazing.
So work
I
is
think
in
more and more.
progress, but
Yeah.
I again, when you do what you enjoy, I just loved that part of my
Yeah.
job. It wasn't a job for me; it was my passion.
It's nice, I mean, for people to find passion in what they're doing. And for example, that keeps you want to keep going on and on.
True.
But there was great insight into your journey. I think very inspiring for the next generation. But I'm sure you must have come across challenges and hurdles, across
Of
your
course.
career. Can you share some, and how
Yeah.
did you find like strength to get over some of these
Yeah.
hurdles?
So challenges, I think, first of all, many challenges that, how can you travel so far? How will you travel for 14 days at a time? But I think, and I came from a very closed, conservative family. To a great extent, I influenced my family members also to support me, to push me, which eventually happened. And today, what I am is, to a great extent, the close people that supported me. But initially, it was difficult. And, I think just being resilient and determined is so important, and having a very clear line of thinking, why I'm doing this, what is it that's making me feel good about doing this particular role or doing this job, why I need to travel. So all of that, and again, travel has made me what I am. I was an extremely shy person, difficult to um, digest at this time, but extremely, extremely shy, and somebody who didn't speak much. But I think with these years of travel, years of getting lost, delayed flights, missing flights, being left on international airports, all that has made me the strong person that I am today.
No, that's great. So just going back to leadership, Zeros, based on experience, like how would you define what are the key qualities to becoming an effective leader?
I think a leader has to have many good qualities, but let me just, the two that stand out currently in my mind is, a leader must be a strategic thinker, must be able to think long term and plan long term, and think of what can be the obstacles that come.
Yeah,
That's number one. And number two, a leader is a leader, or leader is as good a leader depending on how many are the followers and how they are following you. So making sure that you inspire and motivate your team, and I won't call them followers, your team, because you're a
yeah,
part of that team, being a
right.
part of that team. So it's nothing like it's only we, and we. And I believe in that a leader cannot say that I'm doing this. It has to be the team's effort. The so the leader needs to guide, mentor, and empower the team. So I think number one is strategic thinking, and number two is inspiring our people.
That those are great points. And as you've
Yeah.
been in the industry now for a while, like you've seen the industry change and evolve. What are some of the current trends that you're seeing, not just in the industry in India, but also globally that
Yeah.
you have like traveled?
So good that this is a great question, Sid. I'm working now in global teams for now 9, 10 years. And I think since we are on leadership, I know that the global trend is using a lot of digital technology to take decisions. So leaders now are not required to take decisions going forward. We don't have to prepare any trend analysis. Everything is going to happen really quickly, or is happening very quickly, with the help of AI and ML and lots of these algorithms that are put in place to get the results. But I think the leaders will stay, the leadership roles will stay, because leaders will have to be more humanized. And that's what I call the humanized leadership. Humanized aspects of the leadership
Mhm.
will definitely be required in future as things get more automated.
Mhm.
And what that means is to be able to embrace the diversity, to be able to understand different perspectives, to be more, to show more empathy, to
Mhm.
show more compassion, understand different, lines of thoughts, welcome opinions, hear
Be
people out. We're talking about hear the voice of the patient, but I think as a leader, you also need to hear the voice of your team and give them that level of comfort where people can speak up and say that, yes, I don't agree with you, very
yeah.
confidently,
Mhm.
you know. So I think that's going to be a big change. A lot of things that the leaders did are now going to be automated. That's
Right.
the trend that I'm seeing. So, in my
So,
opinion, I would like to be a more humanized leader as things get more and more
yeah. I think
artificially intelligent.
would it be wise to say that, so the human element will stay with the leaders, whereas the
Yeah,
decision making empowerment, or tools
abilities.
required to make effective decisions will
Yeah,
be laid
yeah.
the
So it's not, and having that balance. It's not that we get everything ready made and take it as such.
AI.
There has to be some judgment. That's where the leadership skills will still continue.
Right.
But I think the leaders should focus more on people skills going
Right.
forward.
Yeah. Makes sense. Again, I know we are just about 30 minutes. So again, thank you so much for your time. Is there any way that, people can get in touch with you? Do you prefer like through LinkedIn,
Yeah,
any
so
kind of
I am on
engagement or
LinkedIn
communication?
and anybody can connect with me.
Yeah.
That should be the best way to connect. Yeah,
Perfect. Yeah,
yeah,
not to flood your email or mailbox.
right.
So, but for listeners, I'll put a description of Jeroze's background at the same time, her contact information through LinkedIn. So anybody who's interested to further engage Zeros and then get an opportunity to interact with her can do so. Zeros,
So
again, thank you so much for your
thank
time.
you. And thank you, Sid. And I hope people who are hearing the podcast can gain some insights and get some benefit. But I enjoyed this conversation with you.
I appreciate
I
it.
wish you all the best.
And we
And
reschedule this call.
keep shining.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.